My guest on this podcast is John Howard, and over the last 4.5 decades has done more than 4,500 deals, properties he's bought and sold. And we talk about the multi-million pound deals he's doing right now, and I'll take you all the way back from when he first started at the age of 17 years old. And we also look at where the opportunities exist in this market and how he's amassed a fortune by salvaging failed projects without ever having to build out of the ground. John is also an angel investor in the hit Sky TV program Property Elevator, and we talk about what you need to do to present your deals in the best possible way to attract investment for the projects that you are looking funding for. So let's get straight into the podcast. What's the format of the Sky TV program?
I don't like saying it's a bit like Dragon's Den, but because
I can't use those words.
Don't use those words. So I came.
But it is done on the same set.
Allegedly, it is done on the same set, or the original set of Dragon's Den. So I came up with the idea originally. I really respect people who have started with literally nothing,
yes,
and made it in any shape and form. It's relative. Success is relative to where you started and where you end up. Yes. In my view, it's all about who you know, and those events are fantastic for that, yes, because you're getting to know people. Yes. And if you ever come away from that, and I come away from those, I don't know if you do, thinking, my God, what am I doing wrong? Half these people are doing better than me, yeah, and I'm the speaker. Never argue by email, yes, or text. If you've got a problem, pick the phone up to them, because what you can say in a phone call, you can finish on a good note, yes, you can make it amusing or whatever you want. Whereas with a text or an email, it doesn't look like that. And it's very hard, the wrong way. And yeah, people look at it and look at it and look at it, and it's there forever.
Yes.
Don't do it.
But actually, most people are very emotional because we're talking about significant amounts of money.
Yeah.
So how do you separate the emotion and the logic in a situation like that?
I don't have any.
Don't have any what? Emotion or logic?
Logic, no emotion.
Yes.
I think half the people that go to university are wasting their time. I've got friends whose kids have gone to university, total waste of bloody time. They come out with 60 grand debt.
Yes.
They get some rubbish job. The way forward is apprenticeships.
John, I'm super excited about this podcast. We have a celebrity amongst us, someone that's done 8 series of the Property Elevator show. And a really exciting bit that I want to really get into is 4,500 properties bought and sold in the last 4.5 decades.
Yes, it's gone.
Thereabouts.
Yeah, it's gone up in the last 6 months because we're just developing 85 flats in Ipswich. So
I wouldn't expect anything less.
I've just hit the 4.5.
Fantastic.
I think.
So take me back to the journey, because you've been involved in property a very long time. There are very few people that I know in our space that are actively still doing property. And we talked about beforehand that I know how passionate you are about this. Take me back to the beginning of how did you get started in property?
Well, I was very, very lucky in as much that my father was a greengrocer. And when he was 60, he decided to buy a very small estate agent in the town where he was a greengrocer.
Okay.
Sort of one-man band sort of thing.
Yeah.
And so he bought that, not knowing anything about it, to be honest. So, of course, as an estate agent, you don't need any qualifications. You still don't. A lot of people moan about that, but I own a fine and country with my business partner in Norfolk. So we've got a load of estate agencies, and I always vowed never to be an estate agent again, having been one.
Yes.
So I joined him when I was 17 years old. He wasn't very well. After 4 months, he was back in hospital. So I was running it on my own with Mrs. Leader. Now, Mrs. Leader was scary. She used to give me spelling lessons in the morning, and she couldn't understand how I couldn't spell, having gone to a decent school. But there you go. The reason I went to a good school was because my grandparents saved enough money in a trust to send all 3 of their grandchildren to private school.
Wow.
And I'm doing the same now for my grandchildren. I can't believe I've got grandchildren.
You don't look old enough.
Thank you. And so I'm doing the same for them. And any bit of property education that I do,
yes,
and charge people for goes into that trust for the grandchildren's education.
That's a nice drive.
Yeah, it keeps me honest, as we say. Yeah.
So from estate agency, how did you move to the other side of the fence?
Okay. After a few weeks or a month or two in estate agency, you've got to remember that I was about 11 when he bought the business. So I used to, in my holidays, help him hold. In those days, we had a tape measure, measuring houses. So I'd be holding one end, he'd be holding the other. So I was immersed in it from a young age. and I always wanted to buy and sell, bicycles and stuff. It was just in me, and I think it's either in you or isn't in you.
Yes, you had that.
I mean, so I
entrepreneurial
think you
side, yeah.
is, you can, if you can't put that in someone,
Yes.
they've either got it or they haven't got it, and that's absolutely fair enough. Not everybody wants to be entrepreneurs. A lot of people want a steady job, and I completely and I totally respect that. So I ended up running the business 17 years, 4 months, not having a clue what I was doing. But in those days, you did property management, bed sits in those days.
Yeah.
That was a great learning curve. We did, can you believe we did insurance, motor insurance, household insurance?
Wow.
My God, what could go wrong?
Yeah.
It did. And we had an agency for the Leeds Permanent Building Society. So we had people coming in and depositing money and people taking money out. Right. You can't make it.
I remember places like where there were you had an estate agency, property lettings, kind of like
a bit of everything.
Yeah, all in one.
It was all exactly. And the other great thing was we were losing money. Now, most people wouldn't think that's a good idea, but what it does, you learn far more when you're when you're not doing well than when it's it's like a property deal. When it goes well, you think you're King Kong. I always say you're only as good as your next deal, because you've got to keep humble.
Yes.
But you learn nothing from doing a good deal, and you learn everything when it goes wrong.
Yes.
And it's how you get out of those situations, those problems, that is the difference between you and someone else.
Yes. That brings me to a very interesting point around a lot of what you do now is picking up people's failed development projects and turning them around.
Yes.
It's challenging enough trying to build and develop, but in picking up somebody's failed project, how on earth do you make that work?
Well, with a 20 to 25% contingency, because what sometimes you do, you can de-risk. I mean, de-risking is property developing, in my view, is all about de-risking.
Yes.
Before you start. Now, with these sites, they are hard to de-risk, because you can't always find out all the information. I always say it's like investigating a murder with no suspects.
Okay.
So you have to start from scratch, and you have to try and investigate. So you get back to the architects who originally did it, who probably haven't been paid. You get onto the QSs, probably haven't been paid. You get onto all the different people. You try and pull the team back together again.
So you try and reassemble that?
Yeah, try to normally, because they've got the knowledge that you need. Now, if they're not very good, and on occasions we wish we hadn't, we started afresh, but they've got the knowledge.
They may have contributed to the failure of the first place.
But they've got the knowledge, and from there we build a picture up of what we need to do, how we need to do it, and of course we're buying them at huge discounts. Mm-hmm. So, for instance, you couldn't, if it's part finished, we're probably paying 50% of what it will cost to build it to that level.
Wow.
So, but you need to, because you've still got problems and everything else to sort out.
And
so
there's still a lot of you don't know what you don't know.
Exactly.
Like
and if and I always say this to people: you show me a property developer that's never lost any money, and I'll show you a liar.
Yes.
We've all got projects we wish we hadn't bought.
Yes.
We've also got properties we wish we had bought.
Yes.
And we've also got properties we wish we never sold.
Yes.
So you've got to look forward. You've got to be positive. Yes. You've got to look forward. So when I was I soon realised after I started work that estate agency is okay. You get 1.5%, 2% commission or whatever. You're everyone's beck and call. It's a bit of a mug's game. I'd much rather be owning the properties. And we had 2 property developer business partners who used to buy these houses in flats, split them up, title split, as someone would call it these days, and sell them off individually.
Right.
And they did very well with it. And they had the rump end of a deal, which was a little cottage, with a sitting tenant in, and a flat with a sitting tenant in. And I said, look, can I buy them just before my 18th birthday? And in those days, because they had sitting tenants, you'd pay 50% of open market value for them.
Yeah, because there's no way of getting them
No way to get them out. And the rents were very low. The trick then was to sell them to the tenants for about 8% of open market value. So they're making a profit.
Yes.
You're making a good profit.
Yes.
And I managed to sell one of them on that basis and retain the other one. So my father wouldn't lend me any money because he didn't want me to lose the money.
Yes.
Okay. which is fair enough.
Yeah.
So I went to my mother.
Yeah.
Now, my
Equal
mother,
teenager, yeah.
absolutely. My mother wanted a new kitchen, but my father wouldn't pay for the kitchen because he's too tight. He was a Yorkshireman.
Yeah.
Anybody listening from Yorkshire, I do apologise. So I said, look, if you lend me some money, the bank will lend me a little bit, and I've saved a little bit. So between us, we can buy it.
Yeah.
I'll give you a good share of the profit. And I think the key to working with family and lending money, borrowing money off family, is treat them as if it's any other transaction with anybody else. Because then if you've got siblings, they can't say, oh, you've lent it for nothing for
Yes.
the brother or sister. Be fair. And also, guess what happens? They want to lend it again.
Yes.
So she lent me the money. We bought and sold it very quickly, got left with the cottage, refinanced the cottage. We'll talk about leverage later, I'm sure, because that drives me nuts at the moment. I gave her a profit. She bought her own kitchen.
Okay. Yeah.
Which she was very pleased about. And then the next comment was, what are we buying next?
Mm.
And that
Got a taste
is
for it,
the
yeah.
key. Got a taste for it.
Yeah.
And I did a few. Yeah, my mum was brilliant.
Yeah.
She died at 95, 96. She was brilliant. She supported me and my brother and sister all the way through. And, you know, blind faith maybe, but early on, you know, I was very fortunate
Yes.
the way my career started. And not everyone is as fortunate as me. I understand that completely. And I really respect people who've come from a very, very modest background. I mean, my parents were Marks and Spencer's, if you like.
Yeah.
You know, my mum would shop in Marks and Spencer's for clothes, and you know, they weren't flash by any means,
So, yeah.
but middle class,
Yeah.
yeah. I really respect people who've started with literally nothing.
Yes.
And made it in any shape and form. It's relative. Success is relative to where you started and where you end up,
Yes.
in my view.
You've heard the phrase, your network is your net worth, and you'll also hear it in this particular podcast as well. That's because people in property recognize the importance of being connected with other people. Property is a people business, and that's the reason I've been running a networking event for over a decade now. Each and every month, we bring like-minded people together, an opportunity for you to come along and meet some of those people, and also learn from other people on the stage, learn from myself as well. So make sure you book onto the next meeting. We're on the third Tuesday of every month in Birmingham. Now let's get back to the podcast. Yeah, many people will ask questions around, well, it's okay for you, John, you were at the right place at the right time. Yes, things are easier. But when people are starting today, do you think it's actually easier to get started today, or do you think it was easier to start at that time?
Well, of course, every generation says, and I'm just doing an interview later for a newspaper about how easy is it for people getting on the property ladder and all this business. And of course, every generation says, oh, it was easy. It's hard now. It's hard now. It was easy years ago. You had it easy and all this. What I would say with property developing is you could only ever borrow 50% loan to value. And if you are developing a property or building properties, and we never really built anything, we still don't really, we leave that to builders. We finish projects and we convert buildings, but we don't actually get involved in ground up.
Yeah.
No. But what I would say is that in the old days, you could borrow 50% loan to value to purchase and 50% on the build costs, but you had to put in the first 50% on the build costs. So, you know, it was much more cash. You need more cash than you do now. The game changer was in 2010 when all the banks wouldn't lend on property anymore, and all the bridging companies came up, started up, and they, as you know, lend 60% loan to value, 70% maybe. I don't believe you should ever borrow too much. I'm always against.
Easy to over leverage.
Absolutely. And 100% of the build costs. And that was the game changer. So if you're into property now, I would say it's actually easier. There's more competition, by the way, because of it.
Yeah.
But I think it's slightly easier.
Because the barrier to entry is lower now.
Absolutely. I like that word. That's what I was searching for, and I couldn't think of it as much. Yeah.
And so you've got a wider group of people interested in getting into property. You've got social media, awareness. Information is much, much easier. I'm guessing when you started then, you were relying on the skill you could tap into.
Yeah.
These days, people are sitting at the keyboard, accessing that skill and information.
The one thing, and I do a little bit of mentorship. I don't do it for many people because I'm busy doing my own stuff, and I do a few master classes a year. But the one thing I find with everybody and including people that work for me, is that they're fantastic on emails. Pick up the bloody phone and speak to someone.
Yes.
Oh, the data. Oh, it's all data. I've checked the data. Ring the agent, because you know what? Which side of the road does the sun shine in the back gardens?
Yes.
That might make 10, 20 grand difference to the price.
Absolutely.
You know, you've got to talk to people. My contacts, the deals I do now are all through contacts, personal contacts I've got with agents, with banks and all sorts of people. They are not with a data center.
Yes. Yeah. It's business is still created by two people really talking to each other.
Property is all about connections and networking, and that's where you speak and I speak at these different events, mainly in the evening. I get on about 9:30 after everyone's introduced themselves 50 times. But it's all about who you know, and those events are fantastic for that, because you're getting to know people. And you know who the bullshitters are, and you get to know the ones who are actually doing deals. And if you ever come away from that, and I come away from those, I don't know if you do, thinking, my God, what am I doing wrong? Half these people are doing better than me, and I'm the speaker. The truth is, a lot of them aren't. So in how I analyse it is, men tend to exaggerate, women don't. So if a woman tells you she's doing this, she probably is, and she's modest about it, doesn't shout about it, where the men tend to shout about it. So I always say, to people who go, oh, John, I went to the event and people are doing much better than me. I said, they're probably not. I said, cut it down 50%, and that's where you are. They're no better than you.
There's a lot of ego and showmanship, unfortunately, in our business. And I say you should just focus on what you're doing, stay on track, put your blinkers on, get your head down, get on with it.
It's a really, really good advice. Don't listen to all the background noise. Crack on. Work with people you can work with. There's a very good saying in horse racing, and that is, keep your horse in the worst company because you want it to win, and yourself in the best company. And work out who you can work with, who's decent, who's honest. The reason you and I are talking today is because you're a decent guy. You've got a great reputation. I like to think I've got the same. And that's what it's about. It's about working with decent, honest people who want to have a deal.
And you've seen probably huge amount of change over the time you've been involved in property for 4.5 decades. And what would you say have been some of the most challenging times? Would it be credit crunch, kind of 2007, 8, or have there been other times that have been maybe even more impactful for you?
So I've survived 3 property recessions.
Wow.
And the trick to surviving property recessions is to cut, and cut. And what I mean by that is, if you've got a lot of stock to sell, you need to cut it quicker and deeper than anyone else.
Get out fast.
Exactly, because in the end, you'll do better than if you try and hang on, bury your head in the sand, and you end up sinking.
And I've always see a property for sale. The price is too high. It's not going to sell at that, and eventually ends up at where it's supposed to be. But that might be a year later,
or it might end up less than what it should be if they sold it when they should have done.
Because it put people off, and you got all the holding costs and everything else.
Exactly. So we are super sensible on our sell prices, and to keep agents honest. Agents are bullshitters. The reason they're bullshitters is because they need the stock. So
they need to listings.
Exactly. The chances of them telling you exactly what they think it's going to sell for are slim. I have a little trick with that one. And what I say to them, when they come back and say, oh yeah, it's lovely, I think we can get, 280 grand for it. I then say to them, what is the price to sell it within 6 weeks? Then you get an honest price, because you're giving them the opportunity to be honest with you. Well, if you want to set that quick, John, then it has to be 20 grand less. Well, there you go.
That's probably where it is.
That's where it is. Because the trick is to work it down, start off high money, after a month, 2 months, work it down to what it should be. And they've got the sale. And the best time, the best marketing opportunity you have to sell that property is in the first 2 weeks.
That first impression is
fresh.
And what you've explained is very logical in terms of, you see the tide changing. You've got to cut fast, and you just got to get out of it. But actually, most people are very emotional because we're talking about significant amounts of money.
Yeah.
So how do you separate the emotion and the logic in a situation
I
like
don't
that?
have any.
Don't have any what? Emotion or logic?
Logic, no emotion.
Yes.
So
That's good.
I agree entirely with what you're saying. So most people, it's even a bit like when they find a deal. They find a deal and they, you know, and
Fall in love with
you
it.
analyze it for them or whatever, and you say, look, this doesn't work.
Yes.
Well, it must work. No, it doesn't work. There's not enough profit in it. And you go, yeah, but I spent, 6 weeks on this. I've done it. Oh, chuck it in the bin.
They've invested the time in it and fallen in love with it doing that.
They
time.
need the confidence, or you need to give them confidence. You're mentoring them or supporting them into showing them how they can find deal after deal after deal, not just one deal, and hang on to it until it's no good.
It's building a pipeline of
building a pipeline,
like a conveyor belt that you'll pick up something off the conveyor belt. It doesn't mean you have to pick up everything that comes across your way.
The trick to that for me is I have a top 5. What are my top 5 deals at the moment?
Yes.
Number 1 might end at number 3 when I get more information about it. Number 4 might end at number 2.
Yes.
I have a top 5 that I'm buying. I have a top 10, but realistically top 5. So my top 5 deals, ask yourself the question to get the answer. How quickly can you do the deal? Because the deal's going to take you 3 years to do.
Mm-hmm. That's
your
exit to the exit point.
Then actually, if you're making 25% net profit, it isn't probably worth doing because it's over 3 years.
3 years, yeah.
Spot on. So, sometimes, buying and getting planning, selling it on straight away, and it can be better than hanging on and doing the whole thing. Oh, I'd like to do the whole thing because I'm very proud of what I'm doing. I'm not interested in all that. I'm interested in making money. And very interestingly, I had someone from a magazine come to one of my master classes a couple of years ago, and he wrote in there, John Howard has no feel or empathy for property whatsoever. All he's interested is making money.
Yeah. And we at the end, we're in the business of profit.
We are. And I thought
it happens to be bricks and mortar.
And to start with, I got the strop on a little bit, and I read it, and I thought, that's a bit of a bloody cheek. And then I read it and thought, maybe he's right, in as much that, I'm proud of a large project we've done. Of course I am. Everyone's proud of the success, aren't they? But actually, I'm more proud probably of buying a property at one price and selling it to another, to someone else, than I am completing the project myself. And I think, and that's all about, everyone needs cash flow because you need to keep your money moving at all costs. So it's okay. And if you've got massive cash flow from rentals, that's great. You've got the cash flow. If you haven't got that and you think you're going to buy a property and develop it and sell it, what are you going to live off for 2 years?
Yeah.
And I get a lot of people say to me, announce, I'm now a full-time property developer. I go, fantastic, congratulations. How many deals have you got on the go? 1. I said, well, good luck with that.
It's very high risk.
You need a lot of properties on the go to justify giving up a solid, regular income.
Yes.
And please, anyone listening out there that wants to become a property developer, investor, that's fantastic. But the great thing about property is, as my wife will tell me when she rings me, where are you? I can hear clink. Are you not in Costa again, are you? You don't have to be, you can do another job as well.
Yes.
A full-time job as well, almost, to be honest with you.
Yeah, we're developing.
Especially these days.
Managing, you're managing, you're making.
Unless you're getting your hands dirty. And of course, for builders, it's a lot easier because they're making more margin on the build costs.
Yes. Yes. And we were talking about developments earlier off camera, and we believe that the developer, the project owner is the one making the most money, where the reality is actually many other people involved in that could be making significant profits, like the builder, for example, or consultant.
And can I say bloody consultants? Can I use that word? They are driving me nuts. They are so greedy these days, these consultants, structure engineer, fire experts, QSs, honestly, building surveyors. They are so expensive. We got a quote recently. We're doing a big scheme in Ipswich. We're recladding 215 flats for the residents, and we're also doing finishing off the tallest tower in Suffolk, which compared to you guys up in Birmingham is nothing. By the way, it's 23 stories. You think, well, that's not very high. It is for Suffolk. And
it's the Burj Khalifa of Suffolk.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And you know, we had quotes. The consultancy fees are 1.3 million, but we had quotes up to 2 million quid's worth of consultants. You know, some consultants would double the price of others on the same job.
Wow.
And they're just taking the you know what.
Yes.
And the 1.3 million is enough. It's a huge amount of money. They're making a fortune, these guys and girls. They really are.
How do you think developing and building new homes is changing in the coming years? Because there's so much going on. For example, the cost we're talking about, significantly high costs, delays in planning, just trying to get approval.
The planning stuff.
Funding.
Yeah.
Where do you see this evolving to?
Well, modular homes the modular home thing is very interesting. And I went to a meeting with the housing secretary. I can't remember which one it was now. There've been so many housing ministers, haven't there, over the years? And they were hell bent, or still are, on modular, because modular can be built much quicker. The difficulty with modular is half the manufacturing companies that manufacture modular and that type of thing went bust in the UK last year. And until the major
factories that producing, okay.
Until the major house builders pick it up, and the major house builders, the 10 biggest house builders build 62% of all the new homes in this country. Until one of them picks it up and runs with it, modular's not going to be any good at all, in my view. It's too expensive to do. And the only way to get the price down is the volume, and they can't get the volume. So it's very difficult. But I think obviously something like that you'd think would happen at some point.
Yes.
SIP panels are another one. They've been around a lot longer. These wooden frame buildings with insulation stuck to the board. I went to a factory in Scotland recently, and they're trying to get me to use SIP panels. My God, I tell you what, all it is a bit of wood chip and probably not wood chip, a bit of wood and with a polystyrene stuck on the back. I mean, it's insulation. They must be making a fortune.
Yeah. But do you think the bigger developers, like the big top 10, are exploring the alternative construction methods?
What we've got to remember about the top 10 house builders, and if you follow what they do, you won't go far wrong. As soon as there's a blip in the market, they shut the sites. They shut the sites down.
They're exceptionally good at managing their costs.
Very good. And what they don't do is carry on blindly with the market, hoping things are going to.
We'll be all right.
We'll be all right. And when we had the blip 2 or 3 years ago, I had 2 or 3 sites where and phasing's so important, because if you can phase, you can then shut them down. And I shut 3 sites down. I shut the second phases down.
Just for clarity, phasing we're talking about when there's a bigger development, you're doing in smaller component rather than the whole thing you want.
Smaller chunks. And I help a number of banks, is slightly strong, probably a bit of a compliment to some of them, but anyway, bridging companies and bits come to me and say, John, we've got a problem. What do you think? Can you go and see them and help these people? And when I go, the one common denominator is nothing is finished. They might have 10 houses, and I go, why haven't you finished 3? Get them sold. Oh, well, we've got interest in all of them. I said, that's fine, but you can't sell anything.
Yes.
Because nothing is finished. Get 2 finished, sell the 2, get the money back to the bank. The bank will lend you the money on the next 2. So getting out of difficulties and getting out of problems is what I specialise in. And you just need to get something finished. And the common denominator with everybody, big developers, small developers, nothing is finished.
And that's why the phasing
so
is important to do it that way.
Yeah.
So you also mentioned speaking to people at government level, trying to understand what they want to push for. Do you think there's a link, and should there be a link between developing and politics?
Without question, there is a massive link between property and politics. For instance, grants. Who supplies the grants? The government.
Yes.
Who puts the planning law in? The government. You know, all these different initiatives that come out. Homes England, which is the Conservatives set up Homes England, which is a massive property bank that lends to any developer who's doing 5 units or more. If it's a very challenging development and you can't get the money from a bank, you can go to Homes England, and Homes England will lend at relatively sensible levels. They're not subsidised, but they're sensible interest levels, and will support developments because they want to see houses built. They want to see houses and flats built, and they will even lend or give grants on brownfield sites where there's ground contamination, stuff like that. So Homes England is the government bank, if you like. And for me, I've borrowed millions from them on different schemes. I'm about to do it again now. And, you know, politics and property are so closely aligned. It's crazy, and people need to understand that. And for instance, another quick example: the town fund. So, the last government gave a 25 million grant to 103 towns, not cities, towns across the UK, to tidy up their town centres, to revive the town centres. Now, you need to find out which towns they've given the money to, and on the back of that, you might be able to pick up a commercial stroke residential property within the town centre that you now know the town centre is going to be smartened up. So on the back of what the government do, there are opportunities.
So is it a case of keeping your ear to the ground of what's happening in that space, or being involved more closely in politics?
I think a lot of people don't appreciate the role of the MP. Your local MP is there to support and help you. Now, of course, they're biased. If they can do something that helps, that's got the support of 3,000 or 4,000 of their residents, they're going to be more supportive. And sometimes it works against you, because if you want planning and no one else does, it can work the other way.
My backyard, yeah.
Yeah. But if you've got an issue and a problem at government level, with perhaps there's a planning application that's taken 9 months, you know, it's the job of the MP to get onto the planning committee for you and say, hang on a minute, you know, one of my constituents is waiting all this time. What the hell's going on? Or get on to the housing minister for you, or find out when a certain law is going to be made law.
Yes.
You know, that's perhaps a white paper at the moment with the government, and then it becomes law. So all these things, that's what your MP's there for. And if I knew what I know now, when I was 21, I'd have been a member of the Conservative Party at 21. The best £25 you could ever spend is to be a member of a political. Not one of us got any A-levels probably either. That's another story. And someone said to me, I had lunch with a great friend of mine who's a big property dealer. It's got 1,100 properties.
Okay.
140 pubs. Very successful. And he said to me, where are all the young guys and girls coming up now? And I said, well, they've all been to university. You know, there isn't the need and the hunger that there was for us. Hang on, what are we going to do? You know, we haven't got any qualification. Yeah. We need to make some money.
Yes.
When they've been to university, you know, they go into different businesses. It's safe. They get good jobs, a lot of them, and so on. The educated ones, certainly. And of course, then a lot morph into being investors later on in life, get educated with yourself and myself, and unfortunately some rogues as well. Yeah. But it's very different to how it used to be. Now, what was your original question? Sorry.
In terms of the current government, the impact. Yes. So just before we get on to that, just touching off your current point, do you think in the younger generations, maybe we sound like all fuddy-duddies now, there isn't that hunger there? Or do you think they're hungry for different things now?
I think things have changed, and they have changed. And I'm not saying they've changed for the worse. I'm not, you know, who knows? But there doesn't seem to be, there's some very aspirational young people out there doing what we used to do, or doing what we do. I understand that, but there aren't that many of them, I don't think. There are a lot more people in property, but a lot of them are getting into property in their 30s and 40s and 50s, rather than, and being professional in other jobs first, and they're very intelligent people. But just being intelligent is not always enough in property developing and investing. You can be too intelligent. Now, what I mean by that is you can over think everything. You can go into too much detail. Sometimes it needs to be a gut feeling. This looks like a good deal.
It's like having that street smartness.
Yeah. I agree. There's two lots of intellectualness, if that's a word, probably not even a word. One is street smart, and being smart on your feet and thinking on your feet, deal. And there's other being intellectually smart. And I think the problem for a lot of the people coming into it later on in life, they've been trained to be cautious, potential. And I'm not saying taking risks, and development appraisals are very, very important. But let me tell you, the guy that's got 1,100 properties and 140 pubs, if you said to him, can you fill this development appraisal out? They'd look at you, this your crackers.
Yeah.
So we know the banks need it,
Yes.
and he has someone do it for them, I'm sure. But I'm exaggerating the situation. But there has to be a feel. You have to feel the deal and find out, have you got 3 different routes of getting out of it? You know, if route 1 doesn't work, does route 2 work? If not, does route 3 work?
Yes.
And my rule is this: if the bottom line is I can get my money back, my capital back's the most important thing. If I can get that back, and the best scenarios is I double my money or I make 50% or whatever it might be, then I do it.
Yeah. So the return on investment is secondary to the return of investment.
Absolutely. Because you need that money to go again.
Yes.
Everyone needs their dealing money
Yes.
to go again. And if you made a mistake, get out of it as soon as possible. Don't bury your head in the sand
And go again.
and get your dealing money, because you won't make the same mistake again.
Yeah. You've learned.
You've learned, hopefully.
Should we run for the hills or start licking our lips in terms of what they're going to do?
Oh, dear, dear, dear. It's very, very difficult to quite know. I mean, their target of 1.5 million houses in 5 years is not going to happen. I did an article in the Daily Telegraph about it. It's now a aim, not a target, an aim. The reason it won't happen is because the first year they've only built 180. Well, that means the next year, my maths isn't great, but the next year they've got to build 400. They won't do 400. The next year they've got to build 500.
And these sort of numbers have never been achieved before.
1968, we built 367,000 houses in 1968.
Born.
My God, I'm going to say you don't look that old.
Thank you, I'll say that.
Yeah, take it.
You can come again.
So it's, it's very hard to do. To do so, we think we need another, is it 100,000? We need another 100,000 bricklayers, plumbers.
Yes. We don't have the skill.
We don't have the skill set.
Yes.
And the reason we don't have the skill set is bloody universities.
Yes. Not Brexit.
Not Brexit.
Okay.
The problem is that Tony Blair said everyone should have the chance to go to university, and that is absolutely right. They should do.
Yes.
But just because you
not
can do
everybody
it,
should go to university.
it's like PD.
Yes.
Just because you can do permissive development on a development, it might be best to leave it as commercial.
Yes.
So I think half the people that go to university are wasting their time. I've got friends whose kids have gone to university, total waste of bloody time. They come out with 60 grand debt.
Yes.
They get some rubbish job. The way forward is apprenticeships. Apprenticeships. A good plumber,
learning fast.
a brickie, a plumber, a sparky. Plastering's bloody hard work. I wouldn't want to be doing that. But these girls and boys and decorators, they can earn 50, 60, 70 grand a year.
Yeah.
That's big money.
Yeah. But a lot of the tradespeople use are older, and I think a sign of that is there is not enough younger blood coming through in those fields. And
this Conservative government, the past Conservative government, were bloody awful. And I was a donor, and, I go to the conference every year and so on. But when I look back now, and when I hear the things they haven't done that they could have done, they were bloody awful, let's be honest. And I was sat next to an MP at a dinner the other night, and he said the same. He said, John, not good.
Yeah.
This government, their intentions are to deregulate things, to make people having the ability to buy a home and live in a home more important than the crested newt or bats or anything else, which is good. And we don't want to be killing animals and nature and everything. We don't want all that. None of us want that. But you've got to be realistic. People living in homes is more important than some wildlife, not all wildlife. And if you can relocate the wildlife, that's great. Whether they can actually do what they say, because the Tory government wanted to do a number of move planning forward in a very different manner, but they weren't able to because all the local MPs were having to listen to their constituents.
Yeah, their voting bank is not supportive of,
exactly.
Let's get rid of that greenfield.
So that's what happened. And of course, there's an awful lot of new Labour MPs in rural areas who will have the same problem. A lot of them won't get back in again anyway, because they only got in by a few thousand, and they normally, a lot of them were very traditional Tory Tory areas, and you know, they've got a massive majority, but to put on as half that majority could go overnight if there was an election now. So, you know, there is a core probably, they probably won genuinely by 80 seats, not by the many they did. And those 80 were solid. And the rest of it were because of reform, taking a lot of the Tory vote and that sort of stuff. So, you know, I'm not against Angela Rayner and what she's saying, the housing sector, what she's trying to do at all. But I just do not see it happening. I really don't see it happening. What do you think? I mean, what's your view?
I think that it's a double-edged sword where there is fear and concern amongst developers, landlords, especially old school landlord, about all the changes happening.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a time to hang up your hat, get out of this business.
Yeah.
Personally, I think I've only been in this business just under 2 decades, less than half the time you've been in this business. And I've seen huge change. And as long as you're ready to adapt with change, there's always opportunity there.
Yes.
But it's never easy.
No.
And then at the same time, we talk about this drive for new homes, relaxation in planning, and I think that will create opportunity. We just have to be ready, brave, and be at the front when these changes are happening to say, let's embrace it and go with it.
The government can always say the right thing, but getting it done is very different. And the other thing is local elections. I used to think the local council elections were a waste of time. Until I realised that, of course, if you've got a Labour local council and a Labour government, they will do everything they're told to do.
Yes.
Because they've got control of the council. If that control goes to Green Party, Liberals, Reform or Conservatives, and they say, right, we want you to build all these houses here, they will try and object to that as much as they can, resistance. And once you get near an election, once you get to about 18 months away from election, they ignore them completely because they know they'll be out potentially.
Yes.
So it isn't easy. So local elections are a lot more important than I realised, and other people don't take them seriously, but they really need to be taken seriously because it makes a lot of difference. If they build on all the brownfield sites in the UK, you don't need to build on many greenfield sites. That is the truth. Now, they talk about this grey land. You've heard of this grey belt. It's a load of rubbish. So grey belt basically is green belt that's already been built on.
That's had something. It's either got something on it or had something on it previously.
Exactly. So 2 things about that. First of all, you've always been able to get planning on green belt that's had an existing building on it. So it's a red herring. That's the first thing. And the second thing is they want to put a 50% social housing requirement on grey belt.
Yes.
Well, guess what? The time you've taken contamination into account and site clearance, demolition, everything else, asbestos removal,
it's not going to be viable.
It's not going to happen.
So how is the development going to happen? Do you think the government will then realise this and start incentivizing, or when they look for 50% social housing, they're going to say, well, the numbers don't make sense. I'm not going to do it.
Exactly. They've got a massive problem because every person they've hit so far is a Conservative voter. So 62, the average age of a Tory voter last time was 62 years old.
Wow.
That was the average age. So what have they done? Fuel allowance. Farmers traditionally vote Tory. They've done them.
Yes.
People that run businesses, they've put the national insurance up for them. So everybody they've hit, private schools, everybody they've hit to raise money has been a Tory voter.
Yes.
Basically. And they've got a massive problem because it's entrepreneurs like you and me, not the massive companies. Yeah. It's the people who've done quite well. 10,000 millionaires allegedly have left the UK in the last 12 months. Now, they're not people with 100 million.
Yes.
They're people, with all due respect, like you and me, who have decided, you know what, we've had enough and we're going. They're the sort of people that probably spend 100,000 a year in the UK.
Yeah.
200,000 a year on the UK, on school fees, on restaurants, on spending money on
circular economy, because the money
absolutely. Yeah. And the biggest conundrum this Labour government have got is they need to somehow get millionaires, entrepreneurs to start investing more in the UK and doing more things in the UK. But they've done everything they can to stop it because they're socialists.
De-incentivized right
They
now.
de-incentivized it, but actually they've got to encourage us all. The Tory government didn't do a great job either, so they get criticised as well. Rishi Sunak reduced, and I cannot believe someone like him would do this. He reduced the entrepreneurs relief, which is 10% at £10 million for people coming into this country or being in this country, starting up business, selling them for 10 million. You'd only pay 10% tax. Tony Blair, the Labour leader, started that. He brought that in.
Yes.
Rishi dropped it to 1 million. So the first 1 million you pay 10% on. This government have dropped it even further, the new government. Where is the incentive for people to take a chance, take a risk, employ people? It's madness.
Things like that, I feel, also will create those that are maybe in their late 50s, 60s now thinking maybe it's time to get out of the business now.
Yeah.
Because all the taxation is changing.
Absolutely.
So when you've got entrepreneurs and property people and landlords and those that own assets being hit in that way, you think, well, it's not really looking very rosy.
Well, and Michael Gove he comes in for criticism as well. The former housing secretary, you've got the Leasehold Reform Act that he's brought in, which is definitely against freeholders in a big way. You've got the Renters Reform Bill, which he set up, and the Labour have just carried on. That will be coming law later this year. And I saw him at the Conservative conference, and I took him to one side and I said, Michael, congratulations for throwing 2.4 million landlords under the bus, who, by the way, house 11 million tenants or did do. I said, you're a complete bloody disgrace. And he got the hump and stropped off.
Not spoken to you since.
Not spoken to me since, and he won't do. But you know, that needs to be said because he's been more left wing than a lot now.
It's crazy. You can sometimes see the logic behind some of these policies. You think they're well thought out, very intellectual, long term planning, but you can't see the sense in why some of these things happen.
No,
let's take it right back to let's say someone watching right now is thinking their biggest challenge right now is finding more deals in a market, in a climate like this. Yeah. What suggestions or tips would you have for somebody who is thinking, how do I build a pipeline wherever they are, whether it's a buy to let, whether it's a small commercial to residential or a bigger development? How do they build a pipeline?
Oh, dear goodness me. I've dedicated my life every day to find deals, literally.
And I know you're very good at it, which is what...
Well, sometimes I'm good at it, sometimes I'm not. But you know what they're saying?
Being active, just doing it.
Exactly. Yes. Networking. You know what they say? Form is temporary, class is permanent. And at the end of the day, we all have bad runs. You can't find deals. Nothing works. Everyone seems to be doing better deals than you. I have it all the time. Suddenly, you get 3 or 4 deals. You can't do all 3 or 4 deals. Yeah. You've got too many. Yeah. So it's like buses. They come along sometimes 2 or 3 at once. So, but what you need to be able to do, in my view, is know other people like-minded who you can sell things to. Now, I know you love deals buying property in the Birmingham area.
Yes.
I'm trying to get you to go to rugby, but you seem to have a nosebleed about that.
We'll have a separate conversation.
We'll have a separate conversation about that. But if I find 2 or 3 deals in Birmingham and I can't do them all, who am I going to ring?
Yes,
I'm going to ring you and go, Sarge, I've got a deal for you, and we'll have a deal. You'll give me a profit, hopefully.
Yes.
Yeah,
and there's plenty for everybody on good deals.
Absolutely.
Everybody can do well.
If you, selling is in the buying. If you buy right, there's something, you can leave something in for someone else. Mm-hmm. There's nothing sweet in nothing.
Yes.
So never be too greedy, because if I sell you a deal and you do well out of it and I make some money and I can't buy it myself perhaps because I've got too much on, but I sell it on to you straight away and you do well, guess what happens?
We'll do it again.
You'll be ringing me up. Yeah. What else you got, John?
Yes.
So it's all about who you know, and all this off-market business, these I call them deal sorcerers, because which is probably a bit rude of me, but at the end of the day, deal sorcerers, they've only sent it to 1,000 people. Yeah. That's not an off-market deal, yes. And what I do find is most of those people, not all of them, some of them are good, I'm sure, but everything is overpriced. Mm. You need a margin. You need to be able to earn some money out of it. Yes. So, if you're having a bad run, We all have bad runs, whoever you are. I don't care whether you're Barrett Holmes or whether you're just starting out or whether you're you or me who are established. We all have bad runs. We all have bad luck. We all have bad runs. And sometimes the stars align and you make a lot more money than you think you're going to do. And you know what? As a famous saying goes, the harder you work, the luckier you get.
Yeah, that is so true. It's just getting on with it and things will come your way by being persistent.
The one talent my wife says I have. One talent. What do you reckon that is? Without being rude. I wish it was a talent like that, by the way, of what you're thinking probably. The one talent my wife says I've got is dogged determination.
Yeah.
Being mentally consistent day in, day out.
Yes. Regardless of
the weather, regardless of how I feel, dogged determination. And by the way, all this mental health business. I had a young guy say to me the other day, "How's your mental health today?" What? What do you mean by that? He said, "Well, how is it?" I said, "It's the same every day." "Oh, mine isn't. I have all sorts of problems with mental health." You mean you're having a bad hair day? We all have bad hair days. It doesn't mean you've got mental health.
Yes.
Some days you feel more energetic than others and all the rest of it. My advice to him, switch your phone off at 7 o'clock every night.
Compartmentalize what you're doing.
Switch the phone, 7 o'clock. Because if I don't switch my phone off at 7, if I'm in a hotel, I tend not to. But if I'm on my own home, I switch my phone off because at the end of the day, you need a break from it.
Yes.
And they go, "Oh, I can't do that."
You can't be wired all the time because you'll just burn out.
Well, you and I get, I don't know, 100 emails a day from people, businesses. We've got different businesses going on and everything else. Someone emails you at 9:30 at night. They've had 2 glasses of wine. They email you, whatever.
Yeah.
You're wound up about it. Never argue by email or text. If you've got a problem, pick the phone up to them, because what you can say in a phone call, you can finish on a good note. You can make it amusing or whatever you want. Whereas with a text or an email, it doesn't look like that. And it's very hard, the wrong way. And people look at it and look at it and look at it and it's there forever.
Yes.
Don't do it.
It comes back to that relationship thing you're talking about. It's all about relationship.
It's all about who you get on with, having a relationship. And some people I accept the fact some people are quieter than others. Some people don't network as well as others. I understand all that. But you do have to push yourself out the comfort zone. I was a bad stammerer till I was 18, 19 years old. And they say you never recover from being a stammerer, which I don't think is honestly right, because I wouldn't make a phone call. So I didn't like answer the phone when I started work, and I didn't like making a phone call. And as I got older, I got more confident and so on. Some of it is about breathing. Some of it is about, they don't know why people stammer, but you don't stammer when you rhyme and you don't stammer when you sing or when you shout. And I feel very, very sorry for people who stammer. And I went to the Stammering Society, which was the most boring, most depressing, boring thing I ever did, because they sat there and I made a donation to them and they went, "Of course, you're still a stammerer." Am I? Yes, you never ever
lose it.
Never lose it.
That's what they were saying.
You just avoid the words that make you stammer. And 500,000 people in this country stammer, and people don't realise. I'm not sure that's true. I like to be a positive spin on that. You come away from meeting them, you feel like,
yes,
which is crazy, because what they should be doing is being more positive about it, in my view. So I was disappointed going there, but I do feel very sorry for people who, especially, anybody who stammers, but if you're young and you stammer, you might grow out of it to a great extent.
Yeah.
If you're older and you stammer, that is a problem. But the worst thing you can do is try and help people finish a sentence. Don't do it, because I'll tell you.
I was interrupted in public once when I did that, and that's always stuck with me. Yeah. So, because you think you're being helpful, but you're not.
You're not being helpful, and some people are less bothered by it, and others are mortified by it, and it is difficult. But
John, you also sit on the other side of the table, and I'm referring to Property Elevator.
Yes.
Where is, for those who are not familiar, well, just explain to us first of all what it is. What's the format?
Okay.
The Sky TV
I
program.
don't like saying it's a bit like Dragon's Den, but because
I can't use those words.
don't
That's
use
why I
those
asked
words.
you to.
So I came
But
up
it is
with,
done on the same set.
allegedly, it is done the same set, or the original set of Dragon's Den.
Yeah.
So I came up with the idea originally. I owned it with Property TV 50/50. A number of the so-called angel, well, they're not so-called, they are angels, Ranjan, who a lot of people will know because he's got 75 YouTube followers, 1,000 YouTube followers. Of course, he tells everyone. Everyone knows that, don't they? And I do a little show with him. In fact, I'm seeing him on Friday. Do a little show with him. We do this property questions thing, which is quite good fun. And we've got Paul Mahoney, Hayley Andrews, of course, who hails from Dudley. She's very successful. She's been on the podcast. She's great. We've got Nicholas Warwork, and we've got Scott Marshall, who's the managing director of Roma, who also sponsors the show as well. Roma sponsor it, so it is a proper production. It's not cheap to do, and we're about to film Series 8, which is great fun because we all get together and there's a lot of banter. The idea of the show is that people come on the show with a deal they want to have funded, or they might already own it and they want the funding to push it forward, or they might just want a support from a property angel.
So they're pitching the opportunity.
They're pitching the opportunity. We've all got different skill sets. So there'll be someone. One of the angels will be able to help you. If it's their bag, if you like. Originally I owned it with Property TV. Then I won't say which star of Property Elevator said, "I'm the star of the show," and as such, I think we should have a share of the show rather than you getting the sponsorship, John.
Yeah.
So I said, okay. So I bought the shares off Property TV that I didn't own, and I sold them to the Angels. So we all own the show.
Collectively own it now.
So there's no arguments. You want to bet?
Yeah.
Of course there's arguments, but they're good arguments. They're good fun.
Yeah.
So we're like a little family, really. We do have the odd squabble. We do have the odd fallout, but it's all fun. And when it's, when it's televised, it's even great fun because, it's boring if everything's like, So on the show, the producer wants me to be the bastard, the Simon Cowell. Which, of course, I'm much nicer than that.
I was going to say, why would they want you to do that?
How come I'm the hard man, the tough speaking one? So I take that role because no one else wants it, basically. And then there's a soft, cuddly one, and then there's a nice one, and then there's the slightly stroppy one, and so on. So, so it's good fun. If anyone it's got a deal that they want, potential deal, then come on the show, pitch it. And what a lot of people, obviously, even if we don't do that deal, you get a relationship with the person and you may do another deal with them and so on. So it's good fun. We're in our 8th series. I can't believe I haven't fallen out completely with Ranjan after 8 series, but I haven't done. And although he was a bit upset last year because he bought a brand new suit and I said, "You look like a 1970s porn star."
Was that the red
suit? Yeah, the red suit. And he got it for what I went a bit over the top, to be fair. I was a bit out of order, and I did apologise to him because normally he takes it in great spirit because he's the gift that keeps on giving to me. But he gives as good as he gets. But he did, to be fair, he obviously had a bad morning or something because he was a bit. So I did apologise to him, which is unusual for me to apologise to him. But all's well that ends well. Yeah.
And if somebody wants to be up for pitching, how do they submit?
Propertyelevator.tv. They can go on there, or they can contact me on my johnhowardproperty.com or my LinkedIn and contact me, and I'll put them in touch with the production company. But there is an application form on the propertyelevator.tv.
And it's also on Amazon as well now.
Yeah, so we've been on Sky for a number of years. Now we've moved to Amazon because more people have got an Amazon. So more people have got an Amazon Prime. I don't know if it's anything like you, but my drive's been worn out by white bands going up and down it, which is ironic, really, isn't it? When we're all meant to be saving the planet, but there you go.
Sometimes more than once a day.
Oh, absolutely bonkers. So we're now on Amazon. And if they just put in property on Amazon, it'll fly up.
Yeah.
The show will fly up. So that's an exciting. I think that's an improvement as well, because not everyone's got Sky these days.
Yes.
You know, a lot of people have given up Sky.
Yeah, and it's more mobile as well, that you can
more mobile. Exactly. Yeah.
And most people, especially with the YouTube channel as well, when you look at the stats, there's more people that watch it on different types of devices. Could be the computer.
And we've got a YouTube channel now as well. So yeah.
We've been talking about property. There's other businesses and even maybe property-related ones you've been involved in as well, because you were also involved in a football.
Yes.
I was trying to think of a proper label, a football business.
Yeah, well, football's meant to be a business, but it never really is. So when I was 25, I joined the board of Cambridge United. 25, 26.
Yeah.
I was probably the youngest director in the Football League at the time. I was there 18 years. We had great success, and then we a bit like snakes and ladders, we ended up back down. We nearly got in the Premiership and all the rest of it. We got to the playoffs for the Premiership, which was an amazing achievement on gates of 5,000 at the time. I had a great time. 5 of us owned the club between us all. Eventually we got into financial difficulty and went into administration, came out of administration pretty quick. I bought the ground and leased it back to the club, did a lease back for 50 years.
Yeah.
And then 5-6 years later, I sold it on to Grosvenor Estates, or a subsidiary of Grosvenor Estates.
Right.
Yeah.
So they've not demolished it and put up a housing estate there?
No, and they never could, because they always have to do so. You have to relocate the stadium and build a new stadium. And actually, they thought they could relocate the club, but never managed to. And actually, recently, they've sold it back to the club. So that's You
hear about some of the clubs, and I'm not a sports person, so I don't follow a lot of these things, but you hear occasionally about clubs that own substantial prime land that are, let's say, facing some financial challenges, and you think the logical thing would be to relocate and sell the site.
The cost of relocating a football club is very expensive. But what you can do, you can get planning on a football. Brighton, for instance, got planning in Greenbelt. There you go, prime example. They got planning eventually on Greenbelt for a new stadium.
Right.
And then they sold the other one for housing development. So it can happen, but it's hard to do. A lot of clubs have already done it. It's difficult to do because the cost of building a stadium.
Yeah.
In the old days, you could get a grant. So we built a new stand at our ground with 100% grant from the Football League via the Football Foundation, which you probably can't do these days. So I've built a few different things, including a stand, a football stand. There you go.
So just before we come to an end, that just makes me think about development generally. When we look at China, some of the countries in the Middle East, Dubai, Saudi Arabia, they literally build these huge buildings overnight. Yeah. And yet we struggle to build one high-speed train in 15 years. Why do you think we're so slow at constructing?
The problem is in this country that everyone gets a say. Now, and sometimes that's a good thing.
Yes.
But now and again,
somebody just needs to lead the way and get it done.
You just need to get it done. You just need to get it done, don't you?
Yes.
And that's the problem. There's so many appeals. I mean, the Sizewell Sea at the moment, for instance, near where I live, which is the Heritage Coast, Suffolk, beautiful coastline, nuclear power station in an area of natural beauty, which you can't believe Sizewell A was built, then B, now Sizewell C.
Right.
1,000 trucks a day are going to go up and down. Oh. They've taken years to get that off. It's about to get full approval. Mm-hmm. But I mean, there's so many people appealing against it. It's going to happen. And the other one are pylons. So, and the pylon one is really annoying because Keir Starmer saying we're going ahead with these pylons. We're going to cut the red tape. They're going to happen. So we're going to have pylons across Harlow of East Anglia, new pylons from the new site, Sizewell C site. They could go underground. Or the cables could go in the sea, but they're not going to because it's cheap to put damn great pylons up. Now, to me, that's a crazy waste of money. It would cost more to go underground, but wouldn't that look better for everyone? So there's things that you just think, well, it's not fair on the people that live in that area. If there's no alternative, fair enough. But if there is an alternative, surely we've got enough money in this country. We give enough money away to foreign aid and all these other things. We're huge, fantastically generous compared to other countries around the world. Surely we've got to look after ourselves a little bit as well.
Yes. John, we could spend all day speaking about so many things. We need to draw to a close. What's the best way for people to connect with you or reach out to you if they would like to connect with you?
Well, I've got 5 books that I've written, which people quite enjoy
I was
reading.
quite surprised to hear. I didn't know you.
Yeah, so was my English teacher, by the way. So I've written 5 books on different subjects: commercial, residential, all sorts of different things. They're on my website, johnhowardproperty.com. I do 4 2-day masterclasses a year. I don't do many, and I get about 10 people each one, so they're quite selective.
Yes.
They're very welcome to look at my website to see if it suits them. If you think it might suit, I'm happy to have a Zoom and have a chat about it first. There's no hard sell or anything like that. And also Instagram and I work with a few people on a mentorship scheme. Not many, again, because I'm busy doing my own stuff.
Yes.
And what I would say to all these people listening who are looking to do property education, whoever you're going to do property education with, check them out first.
Yes.
Don't spend fortunes on it, and just check that they've what they have done themselves, and they're not just looking to you to raise money, for you to lend them money to do a development, because they shouldn't need to do that.
Yeah.
They really shouldn't. You should be going to people with years of experience, like yourself, like myself, Hayley and other people, Hayley Andrews, and who have got a track record in it, because we've survived recessions, and we've all had problems. We know how to get out of those problems. And it's very easy to be told, you want to hear it, yes, you can be a millionaire in a year or two. In reality, it's tough.
Yes.
You can do it,
Yeah.
but it's tough.
Yeah, there's lots of people in our business that teach that have not been doing it very long. And for some people, it's their core business. Their business is teaching others to do
Absolutely.
it.
And there's nothing wrong with that, but they need to come with the experience to be able to do so.
Yes. Yeah. John, I think that's a great note to end on. Thank you so much for your time.
It's a pleasure.
And look forward to maybe having you back again at some time.
And do some deals together.
Yes, absolutely.
Fantastic.
Now let's talk about that deal. So cameras off.